Welcome to Tossin the Pigskin. I'm your host, Nate Smith. Today, we will discuss all the latest NFL news. Week 13 is here, baby, and the playoff race is heating up. We will look at the most entertaining games this weekend. We'll tell you what we saw from Redskins-Cowboys matchup, and as always, we'll give you the best fantasy advice you could ever dream of. Let's go! Let's get right into it with a little TNB, Thursday Night Breakdown. After losing 3 in a row in blowout fashion, the Cowboys season was delicately hanging in the balance. Before Thursday night, Dallas had been living through a nightmare. Without star running back Ezekiel Elliott, the Cowboys have looked lost. Over the past 3 games, Dak Prescott and the entire offensive unit have looked horrid. The offensive line couldn't block a soul, and they couldn't get the running game going. They couldn't run the ball downfield, they couldn't throw it down the field, but on Thursday night, Dallas decided to stop feeling sorry for themselves. They put a halt to their losing streak on Thursday night as they beat down the Washington Redskins 38-14. Ironically, the spark came from the defense, a unit which had given up 25 points per game during their 3-game losing streak. To put it simply, they were lights out. They forced 4 turnovers against a Washington offense that had been rolling of late. They forced the scorching hot Kirk Cousins to turn the ball over 3 times. He threw 2 picks and lost a fumble. Dallas applied pressure all night long and was led by the man who should be the NFC Defensive Player of the Year, DeMarcus Lawrence. While Dallas has a humongous workload ahead, this game was a step in the right direction. They will likely have to win out to even be considered for a 6th seed, but there is some hope in Dallas as Zeke returns for Week 16. So if the Cowboys can somehow find a way to win their next 2, they have a legitimate shot to run the table from here on out. And with that, I'm joined as always by Vinny, Asito, and Cristian Egurbide. How are we doing today, guys?
Doing good. Ready to talk some football.
Alrighty, so we'll start with the biggest topic of the day, which is the Dallas-Washington game last night. Craig, we'll start with you. We saw a dominant performance from Dallas. They looked really good, kind of back to their old self. Prescott still struggling without Zeke. Do the Cowboys have what it takes to run the table and win out?
You know, I really don't think that they do, Nate. They have some tough games they got to play in these last 5 weeks. They got to go play Seattle, and they got to play the Philadelphia Eagles, who we know are rolling. So really, they're going to have to win every single game from here on out, and there's no way I don't see them dropping one of those tough games against those opponents. So I really don't see them making it happen.
Vin, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I agree. Like we said, they're going to have to win out, and especially in the tough NFC right now, you're going to have to win 10 games probably to get that wild card spot.
Least,
and with the schedule they have left, like Craig just said, I really don't see it happening.
See, okay, I mean, I don't think they'll do it either, honestly. Like, I think they'll probably lose 1. But just to play devil's advocate, I don't think the teams on paper look as tough as they did maybe at the beginning of the season. They got the Giants coming up next. That should be a win. And they got Seattle and the Eagles to finish. The Eagles probably will not be playing anyone who's a starter because it's a Week 17 game. Yeah. So you can honestly maybe give them a win there. Oakland hasn't looked good. They have them left. And they have Seattle left, who has a banged-up offense right now and a banged-up defense. I mean, they're missing half their secondary. So I don't know. I think it is possible. I don't think it will happen, I agree, but I think it's more possible than people think.
Crazier things have happened, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's football, baby.
True.
All right, we'll start with the NFC playoff race first. Who's the favorite right now for you guys? Vinny, we'll start with you.
I'm going to have to stick with the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, Carson Wentz is playing lights out right now. Looks like the league MVP, if you ask me.
Yeah.
And that defense, I mean, they're flying around, making plays left and right. The offense, they just look like they're having fun. A lot of fun in Philly. They're always having those celebrations, taking those pictures. And
dancing on the side, doing an electric slide.
Right.
Yeah.
They got it all working right now, so I think they're the team to beat.
Craig?
Right, I have to agree. I mean, the Eagles, to me, remind me of like the 2015 Panthers team with all the pictures they're taking on the sideline, dancing around. You know, they're just having a good time. They're 10-1, and they have the #1 rush defense right now in the league. Defense wins championships, so I think that'll bode well in the playoffs for them. And we'll just have to see if Carson can be a real playoff quarterback.
I do think the Eagles are the most complete team in the NFC right now, but for me, this might be a little bit of a wild card, but I like the Saints in the NFC playoff picture right now. I just think if you look at the NFC as a whole, they got the most battle-tested quarterback. He's got a Super Bowl. Experience. I mean, right now, I know there's been a lot of great quarterbacks in the history of the NFL, but right now, Drew Brees for me is the top 5 quarterback ever.
And now they can run the ball.
And now they can run the ball. They've been playing defense. They probably have the offensive and defensive player of the rookie of the years. They have Alvin Kamara, and they got Marshawn Lattimore on the other side. I mean, I think it's going to be Eagles-Saints NFC Championship, and that's going to be a hell of a game, but I just got to give the Saints a slight edge just because of Drew Brees. So we'll see how that plays out. All right, the AFC, a very top-heavy conference, nothing like the NFC. The NFC is loaded. The 6th seed will probably have at least 10 wins. AFC not looking as hot. You could have a team in there. You could
Ravens,
have
yeah, I mean-
Ravens, Texans probably not anymore. But
Yeah.
so who do we think? Is it the Pats, Cray? They still the undeniable favorite?
I gotta keep it as the Patriots. I mean, I just don't see a team that if the Pats can secure a home field advantage, they'll play 2 playoff games in Foxborough. I don't see an AFC team that can come into Foxborough and not make any mistakes, because in the playoffs, it's those little mistakes that you make throughout the game that really cost you, and the Patriots don't make those in the playoffs. So if any team comes into Foxborough, they're going to have to play pretty much perfect football, and I don't think the Steelers can do that. I don't think any of these other AFC contenders can, so it's got to be the Patriots.
Vin, do you agree?
I mean, Craig just said it. The Steelers I think they're the only team that even has a chance. And I don't even think the Patriots need that home field advantage. I mean, with Tom Brady in the playoffs, Bill Belichick, I don't think it matters at this point. I think the Patriots are the favorite out of the AFC.
One thing I will say is I do think the home field advantage matters. You've seen in the past, I mean, obviously Denver's not relevant at this point, but Brady has struggled in places like Denver. I saw a stat, he actually hasn't played a road playoff game, I think, won a road playoff game in a decade.
Probably
Last time was
years.
2007. So it is a factor, in my opinion.
Yeah.
If Pittsburgh wins, I know they play in a couple weeks. If Pittsburgh's able to win that game and they win out and they're the 1 seed, I think that game becomes a lot more interesting than, say, if it was in Foxborough. Now, that being said, I do think New England's a more complete football team. They have the advantage pretty much everywhere, except maybe defensively this year.
Yeah.
But as of late, the defense has been playing better. But you always got to give the coaching edge to Bill Belichick, and obviously Tommy terrific.
And I mean, like you
that dude's
said,
tough to beat.
Like you said, if the Patriots do lose to the Steelers, we know how hard it is to beat a team twice. So
Yeah, no, that is very
especially
true.
come playoff time. So.
That is very true. Alrighty, after the break, we will talk weekend predictions. Keep it here. Welcome back in to Tossin the Pigskin. Now we'll take a look and we'll break it down. This weekend's slate of games. Got some good games, also have some really bad games, so we'll just focus on the good ones. Okay, morning slate. Vikings at Falcons. Cray, what do we think about this one?
I really think the Vikings can go into Atlanta and get a win here. Case Keenum has been playing unbelievable so far these last few games. That Vikings defense is going to back him up, and I just think the Falcons really don't have what it takes at this point to, offensively match up with the Vikings and not make the mistakes on defense that are going to kill them.
Vin?
I mean, I agree the Vikings have been playing phenomenal of late, but I mean, Julio Jones last week, I mean,
That boy ate. That boy ate.
he needed a week to turn it on, and he for sure turned it on. And I think if he can continue to play like that, Matt Ryan feeds him the ball. I don't know. I like Atlanta in this game.
Really?
I do.
See, okay, I guess I'm the
At home,
tiebreaker then.
too.
I'm the tiebreaker. The one thing I will say is, yes, Atlanta playing at home is tough. Everyone knows that. But Minnesota, man, 5th ranked overall in defense, probably be higher by the end of the season. I mean, they have some dogs on the defensive end. I just think Matt Ryan, he's a little turnover prone sometimes. They like to take shots downfield. As you mentioned, though, Julio's going to be tough to contain. I'm going to love watching this Vikings secondary against Julio Jones and those
Xavier
receivers,
Rhodes.
specifically Xavier Rhodes.
Yeah.
So I think that'll be quite the matchup. But I got to give the edge to the Vikings here. Defense travels well on the road. Case Keenum, as we mentioned, been playing lights out. I'm going Minnesota on this one.
Nice.
All right, the next game we have your Lions at Ravens. Vinny, what do you think about this one?
I'm going to take the Ravens. I mean, they are the home team, and Ravens have been playing better of late. That offense is finally starting to click a little bit more. And I don't know, Matt Stafford's been playing pretty good ball, but something about that Lions team, I just don't think they've had it of late, so I'm taking the Ravens.
Yeah, it's hard to trust a team like the Lions.
Yeah.
Craig, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to take the Ravens also. I think right now they're really, really fighting for that wild card spot.
Yep.
I know the Steelers are obviously going to win the division probably at this point. So I think they have a lot of motivation going into this game. They have been playing well. They won a few games in a row, so I'm going to take the Ravens at home.
I'm taking Baltimore as well. And I think the surprising story for me is their defense. Coming into the year, they weren't really expected to do too much. They always have a solid unit, but they've been one of the better units. Their secondary, aside from Jacksonville and Denver, I'd say it's one of the best in the league.
Yeah.
They got Jimmy Smith and Brandon Carr. Carr came over from Dallas. They have 3 picks apiece this year. And Eric Weddle, he has a few interceptions
Tony
too.
Jefferson, too, from the
Yeah,
Cardinals.
exactly. No, they brought in some good pieces.
names.
So I think Stafford, he's prone to throw some picks sometimes. So I think they'll be able to force him into some turnovers and win that ball game at home.
I agree.
All right, moving on here, we have the Panthers and the Saints. NFC South showdown for first place, actually.
Yeah.
Who do we think gets it done? Craig, I'll start with you.
Well, both of these teams are 8-3, but New Orleans coming off that loss against the Los Angeles Rams, I really think they're going to bounce back this week at home and come out and play good football. Run the ball like they've been doing in weeks prior. Alvin Kamara, some of these guys just pound the football and play good enough defense to stop Cam Newton and get a close win here. It's a divisional game, so I think it'll be a good game, but I think the Saints come out and win.
Ben, what do you think?
I agree. I mean, I got it right here. Bounce back win for the Saints. And the Panthers are coming off they just squeaked out a win against the Jets. I mean, nothing was too impressive about that win. So, and it's in New Orleans, so I think the Saints win.
Panthers are honestly the weirdest 8-win team to me. I feel like they don't deserve. I feel like they really don't deserve 8 wins. Cam Newton has been extremely inconsistent all year long, and that's been the story of his career for the most part, other than his MVP season. But I just look at this Carolina receiving core. Curtis Samuel got hurt; he's out for a few weeks. Lost Kelvin Benjamin to a trade.
Yeah.
Their number one receiver is Devin Funchess right now. Olsen's been battered injuries. I don't know if he's going to play, but if he plays,
he came back last week.
He's
One
not
catch,
healthy.
though. Yeah.
It looks like to me he's not healthy. So the big key for me, though, Marshawn Lattimore has been hurt for the Saints, too. They actually were missing their top 2 corners last week in the loss at the Rams. So I put a slight asterisk next to that one.
I agree.
But if Lattimore's out, which it looks like he might be, it'll be closer, I think, than people think. But I'll agree. I'll give the slight edge to the Saints. It's just a better football team, in my opinion. All right, moving to Sunday night. This one has potential to be good, but I feel like it also might be a blow. We have Eagles at Seahawks. The Seahawks offense, their O-line can't block a soul. And the Eagles defense, they get after people, man. Their pass rush, Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, they got some dogs over there. I think the Eagles might blow them out, honestly. What do you guys think?
I wouldn't say blowout. I do think this will be a great game. I mean, you're going into Seattle. We all know how tough it is to play there. But like you said, that Seattle defense, they seem to get more depleted week in week. I mean, they just keep losing players left and right.
Yeah, Cam out for the year and Sherman now, too.
Right. I mean, and those are their 2. I mean, 2 out of their 3. You got Earl Thomas, too. He's still there, but he's holding it down for them right now. But I really think Philly keeps it rolling. I do see them winning, but I think it's going to be a good game.
I agree with you, Nate. I think this might be a blowout. The Eagles really haven't played a close game in a number of weeks. They've just been smacking people. And really, Seattle, Russell Wilson has been playing great, but he's kind of all they have on the offensive side. We know this Eagles defense likes to rush the passer, get after people. So I just see the Eagles offense being too much, even at home for the Seahawks. I expect this to be at least like a 14, 20-point win.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you. I got the Eagles with a pretty comfortable margin because, Seattle can't run the ball either. So, like you said, all the pressure's been on Russell Wilson. And when you face a defense, that's going to work against maybe half the teams in the league, but when you face a defense of the caliber of Philadelphia who can just lock in on you and has studs at every level of the defense, I just don't think it'll work out for them. All right, Monday night, last game on the slate here, Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. It's in Cincinnati. Andy Dalton has been very inconsistent, but mostly bad this year. But so is Big Ben. So, Craig, who do you think has the quarterback advantage here in this one?
I think you got to give it to the Steelers. I mean, it's still Big Ben, and because he has Antonio Brown on his team, that gives him an advantage as well.
Helps a lot.
So the ability to just get it out there to Antonio Brown quick, let him create opportunities for your offense. I just see the Steelers winning this game. Obviously, it's a divisional game. It's in Cincinnati. That might make it a little closer, but the Steelers just have all the weapons, and I think they'll use them well against Cincy.
Yeah, I mean, as far as QBs, I'm taking Big Ben, too. And like Craig said, you got AB, and you got Le'Veon Bell now, too, who currently leads the league in rushing, and AB leads the league in receiving. So you got the 2 top dogs there. I mean, I just think it'll be too much for Cincinnati, but it is in Cincinnati, division game. I don't think it'll be a blowout. So.
Yeah, no, I don't see a blowout either. I do like the Steelers, though, by at least a touchdown or so.
Yeah.
I agree. You got to give Big Ben a little credit. He's been better lately.
He has.
He's had a couple really nice games. His first half of the season was rough. There's no debating that. But I think playoff Ben might be starting to come around. He's obviously winding down in his career.
Yeah.
I do like the Steelers, though. Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell, as you mentioned, I mean, they're on a record-setting pace for arguably one of the best offensive duos we've ever seen.
Yeah.
I mean, those guys are special. Get them in space. Antonio Brown's been on a tear. I like the Steelers with comfortable margin this one.
For sure.
Alrighty, after the break, we will talk a little fantasy. Keep it here, folks. Welcome back on in to Tossin the Pigskin. Now for the final segment, a little fantasy football. As customary, we'll start them off with a stardom. I guess. Works out that way. All right, Cristian, who's your favorite stardom of the week?
For my stardom, I'm going to go back to the Vikings-Falcons game.
Okay.
I say Case Keenum against the Falcons
I like
in Atlanta. Start him because I got a stat right here. The last 4 games, Keenum's had at least 280 yards and 1 touchdown.
Wow.
That's good for your fantasy team. So I'd say against Atlanta, start him again. I think they'll win this game and he'll play well.
Yeah, and that Atlanta defense, you can get yards against them, so I agree. All right, Vin, what do we got?
All right, how about this name for you? Josh Gordon.
Okay, Josh!
Going to Cleveland. I mean, if they need a spark, it's right now. And hopefully they can pull out 1 win for the season.
The Browns need more than a spark. The Browns need a fire. fired.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
they need a lot to happen, but Josh Gordon coming back, first game in about 3 years.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? You never know. The NFL's a crazy business, and maybe they can pull off a win against the Chargers.
I'm pulling for him, man. I hope you're right because that dude is a freak.
He's only 26 still. People don't even realize it. I mean, he's
Yeah,
still
he's been
young.
out of the league for a few years, obviously with all the the drug issues and rehab and stuff. But people forget. A few years ago, last year he played 12 games. He only played 12 games. Led the league in receiving. That's crazy.
I mean,
Crazy.
Special
All right.
talent.
I'm keeping it local here in Arizona. I got Cooper Kupp. He ate last week. 8 receptions, 116 yards against a Saints secondary that's usually pretty good. They were missing their top 2 corners. But the reason I like this for fantasy is because Robert Woods is looking like he's going to miss another game, and he's been the Rams' #1 all year. So if they don't have him, Cooper's kind of the de facto #1.
and
So
Watkins, yeah, I mean.
yeah, so I like Kupp in this one a lot. All right, sit-ems. Vin, who you sitting?
I'm taking T.Y. Hilton. They're playing the Jags
he's
in
been-
Jacksonville. We talked earlier about how good that Jags D is, how good their secondary is.
Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah, Jalen Ramsey will probably be covering T.Y., so I think he locks him down, so I'm not starting T.Y.
Craig?
It's a dog. For my sit-em, I'm going to do a little duo. The Eagles backfield in Seattle, I think you should sit them. LeGarrette Blount, Jay Ajayi. I don't think that's how they'll succeed against the Seahawks this week. I think Carson Wentz is going to throw the ball a little bit, get it down the field, but the Seahawks are so good at stopping the run. I think you just, give Blount the week off this one.
Yeah, I do agree. It's interesting because, earlier this season, say the first game, you would not attack the Seahawks through the air. That would not be the way you
Right.
try to beat them. But now with all their
Sounds flipped.
injuries,
Sherman's out, Chancellor's out.
Yeah, so for me, I got DeMarco Murray versus Houston. Crazy stat for you. Last 2 games, 19 yards rushing combined. I don't have an answer.
Especially the year he had last
It doesn't
year.
make any sense.
Who saw that
The
coming?
dude's still very talented. Tennessee loves to run the ball, so I don't know what gives there. But he's playing against a stout rushing defense in Houston who's just been depleted by injury, but still, I stay away from him. His only fantasy relevance lately is he's been able to find the end zone on a few short scores. I do like him down the stretch in fantasy playoffs, but this week you got to set him. All right, that leads us to sleepers. I'll kick this one off. I'm going with Marshawn Lynch against the Giants. Lynch has had a pretty brutal year, but he has had a few outlying games where he's played well. Last game he played well. New York Giants, 31st in the league in allowing rushing yards per game. So that's one removed from the bottom spot. So I like Lynch this
That's
week.
the least of the Giants' worries right now, to be honest with you.
Ben, who are you sitting?
We're sleepers
You're
now,
right. My
Sleepers.
fault.
Sleeping on
Who's
it.
sleeping? Who's sleeping?
Muhammad Sanu. We
Sanu.
talk a lot about Julio Jones, but 4 out of the past 5 games, Sanu's had a touchdown. Last week he threw one to Julio Jones.
Yes, that helps for
yeah,
fantasy, yeah.
I mean, so far, Sanu's had a pretty quietly good year, and he does play alongside Julio, which makes it tough for him, but he's been getting in the end zone, so I'm taking him as a sleeper.
Nice. My sleeper, I'm going to go to LaShawn McCoy for the Bills. They're playing at home against the Patriots. We know that Patriots defense has struggled a little bit this year, and I expect LaShawn to be catching balls out of the backfield, making shifty runs, and he always seems to eat up the Patriots whenever they play. Even if the Bills lose, LaShawn always has a big game, so I think he's got to be the sleeper pick this week.
Absolutely. Well, there you have it, folks. All the best fantasy advice you could ever dream of. And with that, that'll be our last episode here for this semester at Coast to Coast Sports. We appreciate you tuning in to Tossin the Pigskin. Appreciate the views. Love the support. For Vinny Asito and Cristian Egurbide, I'm Nate Smith. Happy holidays.